The dash can also be used to attach material to the end of a sentence when there is a clear break in the continuity of the sentence or when an explanation is being introduced. Example, the president will be unable to win enough votes for another term of office, unless, of course, he can reduce unemployment and the deficit soon. So the last idea, the last two ideas are attached descriptions, details, conditions, whatever it is needed to fit the first idea. Another example, it was a close call. The sudden gust of wind pushed the helicopter to within inches of the power line. So this is to add extra details in the narrative. Now let us consider contents about apostrophes. To show possession, add an apostrophe and an S to singular nouns or indefinite pronouns that end in one or vary. Example, Susan's wrench, anyone's problem. Add only an apostrophe for plural possessive nouns ending in S. Example, my parents' car, the musician's instruments. Add an apostrophe and an S for plural possessive nouns that do not end in S. Example, the men's department, my children's toys. Though these are irregular plurals and they don't end in S, we need to add apostrophe S to show possession. Add an apostrophe and an S for singular possessive nouns that end in S. Example, Chris's book, cookbook, the business system. So there you're adding possession. More uses for apostrophes. Do not use an apostrophe with possessive personal pronouns including yours, his, hers, its, ours, their, and whose. No necessary there. Is redundant. They are two different types of possessives. Apostrophes are also used in contractions, two words which have been combined into one, to mark where the missing letter or letters would be. For example, I am, I have, I've, who is, whose, let us, let's, cannot, can't, he is, she is, and it is, his, she's, and its. You are, your, they are, their. Avoid using its, confusing its with its. It apostrophe is a contraction for it is, whether its is a possessive pronoun. It's without contraction, or it doesn't have an apostrophe. Okay, let us consider quotation marks and the rules. Quotation marks include the exact words of a person, which is the direct quotation. Example, Megan said, Kurt has a red hat. So we are literally stating what Megan said. Literally. Do not use quotation marks around a paraphrase, which is when you use your own words to express the author's ideas or a summary of the author's words. Example, Megan said that Kurt's hat was red. You are reporting what the other person said, but you're not stating literally what the person said. Though this is an example which is, really close regarding the direct quotation and what you are just reporting in the second example, You will know, will explore that whenever you're paraphrasing or providing a summary, you are giving your own interpretation of what an author has stated with your own ideas, your own vocabulary, your own style, without changing the meaning of what the author meant, but you're not necessarily providing exactly the same words mentioned or stated. Quotation marks set off the titles of magazine articles, poems, reports, and chapters within a book. Titles of books, magazine, plays, and other whole publications should be underlined or italicized. Example: The Talk of the Town is a regular feature in Time magazine. As you can appreciate here, this is italicized since it is the name of the magazine. But what we're having in quotes here is the particular feature which belongs to the referent magazine, which is the talk of the town. This is what we want to emphasize on. Now quotation marks with other punctuation. Place periods and commas inside quotation marks. Example: Sarah said, comma, quotes, Aaron has a blue shirt, period, and quotes. Place semicolons and colons outside quotation marks. Example here: he calls me his teddy bear, semicolon. I'm not a bird, period. So here is like the intention to give emphasis to that. That was impressive, important, meaningful, so as to be quoted. But notice what this rule refers to, and is to have that particular aspect to call the reader's attention, yeah, which is part of the narrative, in quotes, then semicolon, and then the final idea to finish with a period. In this case, place question marks or exclamation points inside the quotation marks if they punctuate the quotation only. Example: are we too late? She asked. Are we too late? That's a question literally taken from a person. That was what she stated, the literal question. But what we want to emphasize here is that inside the quotes we are placing the question mark inside. Place question marks or exclamation points outside the quotation marks if they punctuate the entire sentence. Example: why did she say, comma, quotes, we are too late, quotes, and the question mark outside the quotation mark, because they are punctuating the entire sentence. Everything is a question, as you notice, a WH question with the corresponding auxiliary verb. There's a comma because we want to introduce a literal question. We are too late, and then the question mark. Now let's take a look at parentheses. Parentheses set of additions or expressions that are not necessary to the sentence. They tend to de-emphasize what they set off, so it is not very important, or we can omit this from the sentence and the sentence continues being logic. Example: we visited several European countries, parentheses, England, France, Spain, parentheses, in our trip last year. But as you see here, we don't consider this very relevant. We can omit this and the sentence. It can be meaningful. I mean, we are not affecting negatively the sentence. It's not senseless if we omit this, what is in parentheses. but we are adding some information there. Parentheses enclose figures within a sentence. For example, grades will be based on parentheses 1, participation, comma, 2 in parentheses, in class writing, comma, and 3 in parentheses, exams. The figure which is within the parentheses are numbers. Those are the figures. In this case, numbers. When the group inside the parentheses forms a complete sentence but is inserted inside a larger sentence, no period is needed. However, if a question mark or exclamation point is needed, it may be used. In this example, we see there is no exclamation sign or no question mark, but let's analyze the sentence. The snow, she saw it as she passed the window, was now falling heavily. So what is in parentheses in this example is a complete sentence which provides details, and those details are attached to the entire sentence. So this complete sentence depends on the whole sentence. We cannot take this away as an independent sentence. Let us compare this with the next example to see what we are talking about. And this rule, when parentheses are used to enclose an independent sentence, the end punctuation belongs inside the parentheses. Example, Mandy told me she saw Amy's new car, period. In parentheses, I saw Amy's car before Mandy, period. And then parentheses. She said it was a nice car. So here, what it takes to understand these two examples is to note that this sentence, the first example, is dependent. If we take this away, she saw it as she passed the window. Who is that she and what is that it? So they totally depend, this idea totally depends on the whole sentence. That's why we don't have point inside. But in this case, we can take this sentence away and this independent. That's why we have a period here. So I saw Amy's car before Mandy. So we know we have a subject, we have a verb and a referent and the complement, perfectly okay. I mean, we can take this away. Next one, ellipses. Use an ellipsis to show an omission or leaving out of a word or words in a quote. Use ellipses to shorten the quote without changing the meaning. Example, after school I went to her house, comma, which was a few blocks away, comma, and then came home. This is like the complete sentence. Shorten the quote by replacing a few words with an ellipsis. Remember, the meaning of the quote should not change. So to have now, after school I went to her house, ellipsis, and then came home. So we are not changing the course of the events. We are not changing things. We are just omitting a detail, that actually the location of the house, let's say. We removed the words which was a few blocks away and replaced them with an ellipsis without changing the meaning of the original quote. Use an ellipsis to show a pause in a thought or to create suspense. Suspense is when a reader is excited to know what is going to happen next. Example, she opened the door and saw cake. I was thinking maybe we should call home. This use of ellipsis is very common in informal, friendly letters and emails, for some narratives too, to add suspense. Use an ellipsis to show a break or a trailing off of a thought. Examples, I know I saw my key somewhere. I'm not sure what to do.